Now, as we mark 75 years since the outbreak of the Korean War, our correspondent Oh Soo-young spoke with the ambassador of the Netherlands on the values and challenges South Korea and Europe face for deeper security cooperation.
75 years after the Korean War began, the Netherlands ambassador to Seoul says new security challenges call for continued cooperation between South Korea and the nations that defended it. In an interview with Arirang News, Ambassador Peter van der Vliet reflected on the bilateral partnership, built on the sacrifices made by thousands of Dutch troops who fought for South Korea's freedom and sovereignty. When North Korean and Chinese forces invaded the South in 1950, the Netherlands sent over 5,000 troops to help the South as part of the United Nations Command. At least 125 Dutch soldiers lost their lives. Even after the ceasefire in 1953, the Netherlands to this day remains committed to peace on the peninsula.
We are certainly for peace and stability on the Korean peninsula. That is also a reason that we are still with the United Nations Command. Because the United Nations Command is there to promote stability on the Korean peninsula.
As global conflicts blur the traditional lines between the Euro-Atlantic and Indo-Pacific regions, the ambassador stresses that South Korea's security is becoming deeply linked to Europe's.
The best example of that is the Russian military strategic cooperation with North Korea. With North Korean weapons and troops going to Russia to help Russia in its war of aggression against a sovereign state, Ukraine, but also in the other direction, the things that North Korea gets from Russia, and including military technology and other items.
As such, South Korea has been increasing its cooperation with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, supplying NATO countries with artillery shells, tanks, howitzers, and light combat aircraft. Since 2022, South Korea has been invited to the annual NATO summits, which this year took place at The Hague.
It's also a historic summit because the European members of NATO will take a larger, greater responsibility for Europe's defense. And I think that also offers opportunities for Korea to be even more involved in defense cooperation.
Beyond defense, the ambassador says economic security has emerged as another central area of cooperation as countries work to secure supply chains, protect critical technologies, and shield their economies from strategic vulnerabilities. The two countries in 2023 agreed to collaborate in the semiconductor industry, the most consequential component that powers all things digital. Going forward, as South Korea's new administration sets out its so-called pragmatic diplomacy, hinting at engagement with Beijing and Moscow, the Dutch envoy says pragmatism is inherently grounded in principles.
Pragmatism is also based on a foundation of certain values and principles. Just a pragmatic policy without values or principles is really, what is it really? And I think the values that we have in common should be treasured. Respect for the international legal order, a rule-based international system, for peace, for democracy.
75 years after the war began and still continues, South Korea and the Netherlands face new security tests, but stay bound by the shared values that first brought Dutch forces to this distant shore. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.